the Rambler Network.
Welcome to the Pacific Coast, where the vast and serene holds more secrets than you could ever imagine. From ghost ships adrift in the fog to unsolved disappearances, we explore the mysteries that lurk along the shore. Join us as we unravel the enigmas that are oddly Pacific. They called it L8, a silver whale in the sky, drifting silently above the Pacific. It had done this hundreds of times before, but on the morning of August 16th, 1942, L8 would leave Treasure Island on a routine patrol and return as something else entirely, a ghost. To understand why the story of L8 is so haunting, you have to know where it began. Before the war, L8 wasn't a military craft at all. It was a Goodyear blimp, one of those friendly giants that float above sports stadiums and summer events. Its aluminum gondola had carried civilians for joyrides, and the massive silver envelope advertised the Goodyear name to anyone who glanced up at the sky. But when Pearl Harbor was attacked in December of 1941, the U.S. Navy needed every advantage to protect the coast. Japanese submarines had already begun prowling the Pacific, and the Navy turned to a surprising ally, blimps. The L8 was taken from Goodyear and enlisted into the fight. Its name was changed from a commercial designation to L8, part of Airship Patrol Squadron 32. They armed it with depth charges, a mounted machine gun, and a radio system. The mission was simple: patrol the California coastline for Japanese subs, report oil slicks, strange vessels, or any hint of enemy activity. Blimps like L8 were ideal for this. They could hover low over the ocean, scan for periscopes or oil slicks, and loiter in one spot for hours without burning much fuel. By mid-1942, L8 had already done dozens of patrols. It was a familiar sight in the skies above San Francisco Bay, a sentinel drifting between ocean and city. And when it rose into the fog that Sunday morning, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Two pilots were aboard that morning. Lieutenant Ernest DeWitt Cody, 27 years old, the pilot in command. Cody was a dedicated officer with a reputation for calm under pressure. He'd been flying blimps for years and had earned the respect of his squadron. Ensign Charles Ellis Adams, 34, was his co-pilot. Adams was older, more reserved, but no less skilled. Both had families, friends, and careers that stretched beyond the war. They weren't thrill seekers, they were professionals, doing a dangerous job that, on most days, felt uneventful. They were close friends, too. Photos show them smiling, leaning against the L8 gondola, unaware that they were about to step into one of the strangest mysteries in U.S. naval history. On August 16, 1942, the two boarded L8 on Treasure Island, a small man-made island in the San Francisco Bay. Their orders, a routine patrol of the Pacific coast, out past the Golden Gate toward the Farallon Islands, searching for any sign of Japanese submarines. At 6:03 a.m., the blimp rose into the mist. The silver airship gleamed in the morning light as it slipped past Alcatraz and out towards the Pacific. At 7:38 a.m., Cody radioed a brief report. They'd spotted an oil slick near the Farallones, possible evidence of a submerged sub. They were going to investigate. That was the last clear transmission. From there, the sightings became strange. Fishermen reported the blimp hovering low over the waves, circling as if the crew was peering into the sea. Moments later, it began to drift inland, engines still running, but no longer in control. Witnesses watched as the L8 scraped along Ocean Beach, sand swirling in its wake, its gondola almost kissing the shore. Then, as the blimp climbed a low hill, something horrifying happened. Its two depth charges, powerful enough to sink a submarine, fell from the gondola, clanging against the earth. Miraculously, they did not detonate. The blimp lifted again, its midsection sagging like an exhausted spine. Onlookers later said it looked as though the blimp was bowing in half, a wounded leviathan struggling to stay aloft. It floated silently over the streets of Daly City, the giant silver blimp groaning as gas leaked from within. Children pointed, adults stared in silence. The city watched a ghost wandering through the sky. And finally, as if its strength had ran out, L8 drifted into a house on Bellevue Avenue, damaging a roof and coming to rest in eerie stillness in the street. Crowds gathered expecting to find the crew injured or worse. Instead, the gondola was empty. No pilots, no blood, no parachutes used. The radio was working, the life jacks still on board, and the engines were set to on. The L8 had returned alone. The Navy investigation concluded only that Cody and Adams were gone, and there was no evidence to explain how or why. No one had seen them fall, and no distress call had been made. The blimp had crossed populated areas in broad daylight, and yet the two pilots had vanished without a trace. The theories emerged quickly. Accidental fall? But both leaving their harnesses at the same time seems unlikely. No bodies ever surfaced. Suicide or desertion? Neither had any known motive. Their families and records showed nothing unusual. Enemy capture? Some imagined a Japanese submarine surfacing, forcing them off the blimp, but no witnesses reported any vessel, and dragging them off the gondola would have been almost impossible without leaving signs of a struggle. In the end, the official report was as empty as the gondola itself. No foul play, no explanation. Just gone. You might think a blimp like this, after becoming a national mystery, would be retired, maybe displayed as a cautionary relic. But the Navy had a war to fight. L8 was repaired and returned to service. The crew was never found, and the Ghost Blimp earned its nickname, but it went right back into the sky. For years, the same gondola that had drifted pilotless through Daly City patrolled the Pacific again. Passers-by would look up and wonder, does it remember? Stories like this have a way of sticking with us. They remind us that the world still has edges where logic frays. The Ghost Blimp is often compared to the Mary Celeste, the 19th century ship found adrift in the Atlantic with no crew, no struggle, and no answer. Both were empty vessels, moving without purpose, carrying the weight of human absence. There's something uniquely unsettling about that image. A machine meant to be alive with voices and motion, now moving silently, aimlessly, like a body without a soul. Maybe that's why the Ghost Blimp still lingers in the imagination. Today, the Ghost Blimp story is a quiet piece of California history, a silver specter that reminds us that even in the era of radar, radios, and war, the Pacific can still swallow secrets whole. Two people lost to time, a blimp that came home alone, and somewhere out there, between the Farallones and the Golden Gate, the wind still carries the question they left behind. Where did they go? The ocean swallows many secrets. Some sink to the bottom, some just float away, and some remain oddly Pacific. If you have any theories or thoughts on this or any other story I cover, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out on social media at Rambler Network on Instagram and X, or visit RamblerNetwork.com. Intro and outro music is Oceanus by Flat Sound Works from Pixabay.com.
The Rambler Network.